Let's go right to our first guest for the hour. Really excited to hear from him, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, the former Deputy Assistant to the President. Seb, it's good to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
As someone who was in the administration who dealt with the overwhelming reaction to the travel ban decision and everything in that entailed, how good does the Supreme Court ruling make you feel?
Well, it's an absolute vindication. As you say, I was right there at the beginning, publicly defending the original executive order. And now we've had it reaffirmed that the president's unique mandate stands. He is the only person in the branches of government who gets to determine immigration policy and by which yardstick people are allowed into the country. It was reaffirmed back in the 1950s, back in the 1980s, and now again by the Supreme Court. I'm a little saddened that we've spent a year and a half, who knows how much money and how many man-hours wasted just to reaffirm something that is in the Constitution of the United States. But now it's absolutely clear this has nothing to do with religion. This is all about national security, and the president gets to make this decision.
So now this order snaps into place, if I'm not mistaken, that this order is now enforced and it's going on. What kind of results should we be seeing from this order? And do you ever seeing it being lifted at some point?
It can be lifted. The issue here is, so let's go back in time and remember what the genesis of the order was. We inherited, the Trump administration inherited a threat assessment from the Obama White House that said 7 nations today are hotbeds of terrorism. These nations not only are sources of potential threats to the United States, for various reasons, they are incapable of providing verification of nationals coming from those states in terms of who they really are. They cannot demonstrate that they have the requisite intelligence or information to confirm that an individual is who they say they are and has no criminal record. So that's a snapshot in time. Certain nations have been removed. For example, Iraq convinced us that they have the capacity to confirm the identity of individuals coming to the U.S. So none of this is carved in stone. But what do I expect? I expect Americans to be safer because there will now be a travel moratorium on specific states that truly are, the hotbeds of terrorism, or simply like Syria, are in a state of civil war in which data is simply not available for us to verify who people are.
Exactly. 2 of those countries, Syria and Yemen, are in the middle of civil wars. They don't control the whole country. The government doesn't control the whole country,
Right.
let alone is able to vet people in their own country.
Not only that, but not only are they physically incapable of doing so. For example, in the case of Syria, even if they wouldn't give us the reliable information. They see us as an enemy state, and as such, they simply cannot be trusted to provide us with information that is robust and is actually true. So this is just this is another instance, thank the good Lord, of common sense prevailing. When you have a nation that cannot or won't give you the requisite information to confirm who's coming into your country, then you can't have people come into that country for the time being.
Right. And speaking of common sense, Ambassador Bolton, he was just in Moscow setting up an upcoming summit between President Trump and Putin. Can you talk about, why sit down with Vladimir Putin, and what kind of outcome can we hope for?
Right. So why? With a nation that has almost a dozen time zones, that is a geostrategically important country, it makes sense to have some kind of working relationship. At the end of the day, the president is a pragmatist. He understands that this is a kleptocracy. It's run by a former KGB colonel. But all that being said, it is a geostrategic player, not a positive one. But if we can improve relations with Moscow, that's good for everybody. And whilst we don't expect there to be, absolute understanding and perfect relations with the Kremlin, there may be areas where there are some overlaps in national security interests, for example, counterterrorism or some kind of long-term settlement for Syria. So I think that this will be the objective of any summit, to identify what's the common denominator that we can discuss together, and perhaps provide a modicum of understanding between the two capitals.
There's a lot of noise from the left and critics of Trump, that Trump's destroying relationships with our European allies and NATO. How would you respond to that criticism?
I don't know if it's worth responding to it, because the people who say that live in a fantasy land. I mean, there's an alternate universe that the left lives in right now. If I wanted to waste my breath on it, I'd say, okay, let's look at every single significant policy this president has brought in the last year and a half, which in some way impinges upon a Russian interest.
He's been tougher on Russia.
Sorry?
He's been tougher on Russia than the Obama administration.
It's you can't compare the two. It is night and day. Instead of delivering Hillary Clinton's cheesy plastic reset button and then doing nothing when Russia rolls into Ukraine and steals Ukrainian territory, as Obama did, just sat back and rolled over. Instead of being a facilitator for the Russians, what has this president done? This president, for the first time in more than 30 years, has managed to get, within the space of just a few months, managed to get NATO to finally agree to pay its 2% of GDP commitment that they've been promising for generations but have never done. So number one, he's strengthened NATO and underdone this, what we used to call the free rider complex. Secondly, he's armed the Ukrainians. Let's just let that sink in for a second. And thirdly, with all our decisions that have made us a net energy exporter, from allowing fracking, from releasing oil exploration in the Anwar, he has struck a blow to the only commodity Russia has. Russia is a one-horse town. All they don't have high tech, they don't have industry in the ways that we do. All they really have is gas and oil. And with the oil and energy policies of this administration, we have really made Russia not a competitor, not a strategic. We've limited their capacity to maintain a stranglehold on other countries around the world based upon the supply of energy. So every significant measure the president has taken, from arming the Ukrainians, revitalizing NATO, to making us energy exporters, all of these things are bad for Vladimir Putin. That's the reality, but I don't think that matters to the president's critics.
And a little breaking news on that. The Trump summit will be July 16th in Helsinki. Dr. Gorka, are you looking forward to this meeting? I personally look at it, and it's just going to be fascinating. The two personalities meetings, for an extended period of time. What are you looking forward to out of this summit, out of this meeting? Obviously, we'll have the pictures, the handshakes. What do you think we can expect?
Look, I'm no fan of KGB colonels. My father was arrested, tortured, and imprisoned by communist secret police. So there's no love lost between the Gorka family and Moscow.
Right.
But it is exciting in one regard. The president of the United States, Donald Trump, in less than a year and a half, has completely reconfigured international politics. If you just look at the summit in Singapore, I was in Singapore for the summit, I spoke to the president. If you just look at what's happening with regards to the economy globally, to our challenges, to the resurgence of China, the way ISIS, the caliphate of ISIS has been swept off the face of the earth, the president has changed geopolitical reality in just a matter of months. So it's an exciting time. Any high exposure event of this nature involving the president will bring results. He is always about results, and hopefully, let's be modest here, but hopefully this summit will bring some kind of modification to the way Russia behaves, and hopefully we'll be able to put them slightly more back in a box whereby they don't threaten our friends. They don't threaten the countries around the periphery of the Russian Federation. So I think this will be more, Charlie. This will be more than just a nice photo opportunity, but the president will have some really concrete results come out of it.
And the president tweeted earlier this morning, Russia continues to say they had nothing to do with meddling in our election. What is that? Is the president just sort of trolling the left at this point, or what? Give us some insight on why he decided, or why he would sort of poke the media bear on this.
Yeah, well, look, he is the master troll. So
troller in chief.
Speaking of master trolls, if you're not following Seb Gorka on Twitter, at Seb Gorka, you should definitely do that, because he frequently does battle with the left and is one of our favorite happy warriors on social media. But continue on
the Never Trumpers. I have more issue with the Never Trumpers. The left, you expect that they're going to do what they do, but the Never Trumpers, they're the bigger problem right now. But no, he knows every button to press. He knows which levers to pull. You know right now, Charlie, that the left-wing media, that's a redundant phrase. The media are just going to be obsessing about this tweet now for the next, 72 hours. But at the end of the day, his assessment of Russian involvement is a pretty sound one. We have no smoking gun. There's no facts. There's no photograph of an email from Vladimir Putin that says, "I want you to mess with the American election."
Release the meddling.
Right. They've been doing that with democracies since nigh on 1917, but what the reports that we do have are very specific, and people don't read anymore, Charlie. It's shocking. Even journalists don't read anymore. If you read the unclassified intelligence community reports, what they state is that there was meddling in the American election in ways that evinced Russian tradecraft and used computer code for cyber attacks that has the source code, which is most often used by Russian hackers. That's all we know for sure. There's no smoking gun that it came from, Division 6 of the SVR former KGB unit. What we have is circumstantial evidence, and as such, that's the reality we have to comment on. It doesn't mean Russia gets a pass, but the things they were doing, if you look at they spent $100,000 on Facebook. Well, Hillary Clinton spent $1.4 billion, and she spent $12 million on Russian propaganda in the Steele dossier. So that was used to acquire an illegal FISA warrant against a member of the Trump campaign. If anybody was colluding with Russia, it wasn't lots of trench coat wearing agents walking around Washington, D.C. It was Hillary Clinton and the DNC.
And you saw that mentioned in the president's tweet this morning. He asked, why isn't Hillary Russia being looked at? So many questions, so much corruption. And that's something we've certainly been following here at Breitbart News. Dr. Gorka, are you going to be traveling with the obviously not with the president, but are you going to be following the president on any part of his trip to Europe and any part of this Russia summit?
I just got a request.
Stay tuned. That's a stay tuned.
I'm not going to confirm or deny, but if I can, I will. He makes history wherever he goes, so it would be exciting to be there.
Well, it was great to see you in Singapore, live reacting on Fox News, and we'll certainly be keeping an eye on the coverage and your comments on this issue. Thanks so much for calling in this morning, Seb. You're a busy man, and we certainly appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Christina. Keep doing what you do. God bless.